Today is August the 14th, 2014. My name is Tanya Finchum, along with Alex Bishop, and we're with Oklahoma State University. Today we're in Enid, Oklahoma, to speak with Ottis Cornelsen. And this is regarding our Oklahoma 100-Year Life project. So thank you for meeting with us today. Let's start with having you tell us when and where you were born.
I was born January the 10th, 1913 in Beaver County, Oklahoma.
And what did your parents do for a living?
We were farmers.
So, did you grow up on a farm?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a few chores?
Chores to do for when we first got up, then we'd have our breakfast, and then we had more chores to do when we got up big enough to do, and we had certain things that we had to do before we went to school.
What were a few that you had to do?
See that the chickens had plenty of water and feed, and help my brother with taking care of the cattle, see that they were fed, and take care of my pony.
And what was the pony's name?
Sweetheart.
Sweetheart. Did you ride it to school?
No.
No.
We walked to school 3 miles.
One way?
One way.
My gosh, that's a long... You have to start early. In rain or snow, it didn't matter?
No.
Was it a one-room school?
Yes.
And how many other kids were in your grade?
Oh, they were about 5 or 7.
Okay, small.
Varied. But it was all, we were from the kindergarten to the 8th grade in all in one room. One teacher.
So you learned quickly. After the 8th grade, what did you do?
In 8th grade, I was in Enid, Oklahoma.
Okay. Then you mentioned brothers and sisters. How many did you have, siblings?
There were 9 of we kiddos.
And where were you in the order?
The last one.
You were the baby? Were you a little spoiled?
No.
No.
Still had to do chores.
I wasn't, because they were so far apart that only had 3 brothers at home that I can remember, because my sisters and my 2 older brothers were already gone, and I have at that time I had a nephew that was about 2 years between our ages. So I was definitely the small one of the family.
Describe the house that you grew up in.
It was very small, a country home. We had a kitchen and a living room and a bedroom with we had stairs to go up to get to our bedroom.
And how? Go ahead.
And then we had a building that was away from the house that had an attic that's where we also went to sleep.
How were they heated?
Coal, wood.
No electricity at that time?
Oh.
No.
What was electricity back in 1913?
I just have to ask.
And you surely had an outhouse.
That was the only thing we had.
Was it a 1-seater or a 2-seater?
one. And used Montgomery Ward catalog.
You ordered it.
No, that's not what she means.
Oh, I know what you mean. Oh, you put that one over my head for a second. I had to think. Still right there.
Well, you're young enough that
I've seen
hope
them
this
go.
isn't being recorded.
It's fine, it's fine.
That things like that you don't know about.
Well, I've seen the Montgomery Ward. I've heard of them.
But not used for.
Not used for the outhouse, no.
Well, were you living in Beaver County when the Dust Bowl was an issue?
Well, from Beaver County we went to Texas County,
Okay.
which is on farther
West.
west.
So do you have any memories from the Dust Bowl days?
Yes, quite a few.
Well, share a few.
We hung things over the windows to try to keep the dust out of the house, but it wasn't easy because houses were not so concealed at that time. They were open. But no, I will say this. My mother and father taught us to accept things as they happened and make the best of it. And that's what I was raised to do. To whatever happened, why, do the best you could. If you couldn't do anything about it, why, let it go.
I just wondered how the kitchen was during dust storms.
Well, everything we try to cover it with everything, with towels and stuff. But I was taught that it was something that was to be and to make the best of it and to not complain.
So and you said after the 8th grade you moved into Enid?
Yes, in 1928 we came to Enid and lived out by Phillips University. Went to Longfellow Junior High and then went to Enid High School. 3 years and graduated.
In what year?
1932.
See, yay. You know dates. So
1933, I married the love of my life.
All right, now how did you meet him?
Oh, okay, you want to know? Well, my brother and a friend had a garage that they repaired automobiles, and this gentleman worked for Gold Spot Dairy and delivered milk to residents in bottles, and his truck needed some work done, and he happened to be delivering milk to where this garage was, and so he talked to them, and they worked on his car or his truck, and my brother told him that he could deliver milk to our residents for the pay. And of course at that time we didn't know that we had to put the bottles back out and knock on the door, and this gentleman said he needed the bottles of milk, and that's where I met him.
And what was his name?
Abe Cornelsen.
Was he a few years older than you or the same age? Or
Not too much.
So when you moved into town, your father was no longer farming?
No,
He was doing
he
something
worked.
else.
He was, well, I call it the custodian, but anyway, at Phillips University, he was hired by Phillips University as a repairman out there.
Well, then go ahead.
And of course, we lived out by Phillips University, and my brother and I walked from Phillips University to Longfellow Junior High.
And about how far was that?
Well, that Phillips University was about the 3600 block, and Longfellow Junior High is the 1000 block.
Oh, a little piece then. Where did your future husband take you on dates? How did he court you?
Well, usually he came to the house and we sat and visited.
Okay. You go to any dances?
No.
Oh.
He was a musician and played the guitar and had a beautiful voice, sang bass that could roll it lower than the gentleman in Nashville, Tennessee that they always bragged about that could sing low bass.
Was he in a band or do something?
After, several years, why, he and two other gentlemen formed a trio and sang, entertained.
Around Enid or across the state? Just in town. How did he pop the question?
That's been so long ago, I don't know.
You said yes, it doesn't matter, I guess. So what did he continue to do as a living after you guys were married?
He was a carpenter.
Carpenter. And did you work outside the home?
I didn't, we'll back up a little bit. He taken care of his parents, and when we married, why, we lived with them for 15 years and taking care of them. And my mother became ill, and Dad always called me sis, and he called me at the house, and he said, sis, he said, I want to talk to you. And I said, okay. So I went over and seen Dad, and he said, Mom needs you. And I said, okay. So he had a stepsister, and he called her and told her that my parents needed me, and we were moving in to take care of my mother, and for them to take care of her mother. And so that's what we did, and for 15 years I've taken care of my mother. And his stepsister looked after his parents for, I guess maybe 3 months, and they went into a nursing home. So 25 years of our married life was taking care of his parents and my parents. And I have no regrets.
Did you have children? No. Didn't have time?
Well, I'll make this comment. We talked about it, and he said, we are not raising children with grandparents. So that was it. Because he said, they'll spoil them, and we're not going to have spoiled kids. So
you had your hands full anyway.
we had And a very 67 years of married bliss.
And what was the secret to that?
What was our secret?
To married bliss for 60-something years.
To be congenial, love each other, and trust in higher power.
Well, was he in the military?
Yes. He served overseas in India. Came home ill. Had a leg hurt, and but we still had a good life.
In the Army or Navy or
He's Army.
Army during World War II?
No.
Now you went to work at one point, right? For the City of Enid?
I worked for the City of Enid for 25 years. I worked for Cardinal and sold refrigerators. Didn't sell them. I was a bookkeeper, and then worked for 15 years for Haskins Automotive.
As a bookkeeper?
Bookkeeper.
She's
Good with numbers, huh?
numbers.
So was math your favorite subject in school?
I can't say that it was. I didn't have a favorite subject, I don't believe.
Did you learn to sew along the way?
Well, when I was taking care of my mom, she loved to quilt, and one year she and I quilted 8 quilts. And she made the remark, she says, I want you to help me and I said, what do you want me to do? And she said, well, we're going to make quilts, and she said, I want to give every one of my children a quilt that I have made. And that's what we did.
Did you get to pick which one would be yours?
What?
Did you get to pick the one that would be yours?
No.
No.
And I don't have it today because I gave it to one of my nieces that wanted it, and because I feel like it's the time to download.
What was the pattern? Do you remember?
Every one of them was different. I don't remember anything in regard to it. Only thing I remember is that we had a regular quilting frame that you roll up, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna go and sit down, and my mother came and looked at it, and she says, you take that all out. She says, that's not small enough, because they were large stitches. She says, you know better than to put those large stitches in that quilt. She says, it's supposed to be tiny. So I had to whole block I had to undo and redo because I didn't do it proper.
And after those 8, did you do any more?
No.
No. Done.
That's enough.
That was her desire to give each one of the children a. And I thought the other day, I just wonder what's happened to a lot of the quilts.
To the other 7, yeah.
Because they were a full-size quilt.
It took a lot of time to do 8 by
Taking
hand.
us all year to do it.
Well, was obviously church was an important part of your growing up and your married life. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
About what?
Church, the role of church in your life.
Well, I was baptized at the University Place Christian Church. We went there to church, and of course when we was out in the Panhandle, church was in the school, You just had the one building, and you went Sunday it was fixed to church for church services, and then it was fixed for school when it was school time.
Did you have a minister available every Sunday?
At that time, they would come in from other places. But it was a very small community, because you would live probably 6, 10, 15 miles apart, because each of you had a farm, and you didn't have what you have now, neighbors that's so close to you that you wish you didn't have, you had more space because everybody had farm, and you weren't that close to.
You lived in Beaver County growing up. Were you
I
near
was born in Beaver County, and actually,
Texas?
well, I went to school. My first year of school was in Beaver County, and we had 5 miles to walk to school.
Did you live near Beaver? The town of Beaver? Was that the
No,
closest
it was
town?
in the country. It was Beaver County.
But what was the closest town? I'm trying to.
Well, let's see.
There's an old.
Well, at that time, Liberal, Kansas was the closest.
So you were way up there.
That was 25 miles.
Did you ever get a chance to go through Slap Out?
No, we didn't do much traveling.
Because it would be down in the south part of the county.
And then folks moved to Texas County, and we went to the Appleton School District, and I don't really just remember, but anyway, Dad wanted to get out of farming, and my brother was going to Phillips University, and they needed a custodian, and he talked Dad into moving to Enid, Oklahoma in 1928, July.
I was just curious, being in the Panhandle, did you ever, as a child, did you ever attend the county fair or have anything to do?
Well, we were so far out in the country that the only way we had it going was horse and buggy. And occasionally we got to go to town, but very, very seldom. A lot of times Dad and Mom would go and they'd do the shopping, and we taking care of because you didn't leave home and get back up there and back because it taken you quite a little while for your horses to take you.
And I assume town would be Liberal. You'd go over to Liberal.
Yeah.
You'd have to go to Liberal, Kansas.
And the roads probably weren't very good.
They weren't too bad, but some of the farmers would take their equipment and fix the road, and so we had pretty good roads.
Well, in 1928-29, the Depression was coming on. Do you have any memories from that?
No, I will say that I do not, because I'll answer you this way. Yesterday's gone, tomorrow is here, today is here, and tomorrow is another day. And yesterday, whatever happened,
Fair enough.
No,
what do you think of my answers?
Good.
no, I know you had a role here in Enid with the senior nutrition, senior meals, this being the treasurer, is that correct?
For the city?
Mm-hmm.
Meals on
For the Meals on Wheels program?
Oh, yes.
How'd you get involved with that?
Because we enjoyed volunteering, and we went to a meeting, and the gentleman that was, oh, I can't think of his name right now, I can see his face. He was doing the bookwork, and he made the comment, "I've got to give it up." He said, "And that gal right there is going to take over." And I looked at him and I said, "What?" I said, "I don't know anything about it." He says, "You're going to take over as going to be in charge of keeping the books and receiving the money and of the ones that." So that's what I did for 25 years.
So was that a volunteer work, or
That
were you,
that was volunteer.
or were you volunteering?
Well, we did a lot of volunteering. I should have brought my name tag at hostess for the Sirloin Stockade for Haven, Iowa.
Oh my gosh. Here in town.
Yeah, it's
It's a Chinese buffet now. Hungary or Mandarin.
eating place that's what is it, Mexican now, or
Oriental. Used to have a big cow out.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's right north of the highway department. We hosted there for go in the evening and on Saturdays and Sundays.
And volunteered? It wasn't paid?
Sure, have fun, entertain the customers.
Entertain them how?
Yeah, how would you entertain them?
Serve them coffee. And of course, my husband was a clown, and of course, the same people would come a lot of times. And I remember one time we were there, and this gal came in and we spoke, of course, and she said, "I knew you were here." And I said, "Well, how come that?" Because she didn't see us when she came in. She said, "I knew in the minute I walked in that door that you kids were here." She says, "Because the attitude is different when you're here than when it isn't." And I said, "Oh, come on." And so to have fun, why, Abe would go serve coffee. And he might pull a joke on them, pretend that he was pouring our coffee, and he wouldn't.
It sounded like you had a fun time.
Yeah, we tried to.
Now, did you, working for Enid, have you seen any changes in Enid specifically? Since you when you worked for the city, well, what's changed the most, do you think?
I will answer you.
In terms of this community.
I will answer you this way. I'm glad I'm not there now.
Things have changed a lot.
I haven't been back in the office or to the city since they told me I was too old to work.
And how old were you when they told you that?
65.
They're lost.
Yes. Definitely.
And then we belong to the RSVP. Volunteered there when they had their offices over by the high school when they first started. And at one time they started making pictures, taking photos. When they'd come in, they wanted pictures of, and Abe got to take their picture and cut up with them.
And were you a member of any organizations or any clubs or anything?
Well, I served as secretary for Enid number 36 Eastern Star for 25 years.
It's a long time.
And I'm a past state officer of a branch of the Independent Order of Oddfellows.
Always busy.
Hmm?
Sounds like you were always busy.
We tried.
And what would you describe as what's a typical day like today at 100? What time do you get up? You know, what do you do during the day, and when do you go to bed? What's a typical day like in the life of a 100-year-old?
What I do here, I get up at and come down to breakfast at around 7 o'clock. Sit and do it for a while and go back up to my room, read the paper, and wish that they'd have different programs on television sometimes. And then come back down and have lunch and talk with some of the ones that live here and get my trash mail.
Do you read any of it?
Hmm?
Do you read any of it?
Yes, I got one the other day that I think I'm going to let Mike read. It was, I don't know whether they know what they're talking about. I imagine they do, but it was an article that said that our president was adopted. And is raised by not his father and mother, but by other people. And I thought, well, I'm going to keep it. Just see, I'm going to read it again. But it was saying that the country that he was raised in and everything. So, I don't know.
And what time do you usually go to bed at night?
That depends upon what time St. Louis gets through with their ball game.
You're a Cardinals fan. Royals are back in first place, though.
How was
I
that?
said the Royals are back in first place, though.
Yeah. Well, I sometimes watch Texas.
How'd you become a Cardinal fan?
I don't know. I guess because it's the Cardinals. I love Cardinals.
And then baseball.
Mike, you're learning too much about me. I need to shut
loving
up.
this. I'm loving this. You've gotten way more information than I ever thought you would get.
So have you always been interested in baseball, though? Baseball.
Well, I used to play softball.
In high school or
with
later?
a group of ladies about my age, and I was a second baseman.
Cool. That's cool.
So we had a lot of fun.
Was the league here in Enid?
Huh?
Was this during World War II? They had women's leagues in during World War II.
We weren't particularly in the league. It was just a group of different ones here in Enid that we had a certain age, and I was acquainted with some of them, and they said, "You want to play?" And I said, "Oh, sure. Why not?" So.
Played second base. How were you at hitting?
Oh, I did pretty good most of the time. Sometimes not so good, but
What kind of uniforms would you wear?
we didn't have uniforms. We just, each one of us had slacks and a shirt.
T-shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
What was your name? What was the team name?
I don't know that we even had a name.
Well, then colors. What were your colors?
We didn't have colors. Everybody wore.
Different. Okay.
It was just a group of women that
Okay.
didn't have nothing else to do and had a ball game.
About how old were you when you did that?
Oh,
Just about.
I would say that I was in my late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
I've been married quite a while.
Well, have you been to a Cardinals baseball game in person?
No.
Nope. Is that on your wish list? Your bucket list?
No, not particularly.
Do you have anything on your bucket list?
Of course, I was a football fan because my brothers played football for Enid High. And so, anyway,
Not gonna.
I think I've told too much about myself.
No, you're doing fine.
You got any more questions that you don't need to answer?
Did you ever think you'd make it to 100?
I never did think about age.
Not even when you were 99 and said one more year?
No.
Are you the first in your family to make it to 100?
I do not have any brothers or sisters living. They've all been gone for, let's see, my youngest brother passed away, I've lived here 5. He's been gone. I would say he's been gone probably 7 years anyway. Maybe not quite that long.
Well, did they live to be in their 90s, 80s, 90s?
No, he was 80, 87, 88, something like that, I think.
What do you contribute your longevity to? What's your secret, do you think?
The only thing that I can answer you is that higher power there's a reason why that I'm still here, and why, I don't know. Some of these days I'll be told. Yeah. That's the way I feel about it. Otherwise, there's a reason why. I haven't did something that I'm supposed to do yet, but someday I'll be told that I'm supposed to do so and so. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the only reason why that I can say that I'm still here, is because all my brothers and sisters are gone, and my nieces and nephews that I played with when that was growing up, because I had one nephew that there was just 2 years difference in our ages. Well, he's gone. Well, why? Can you tell me?
I probably know answers.
So,
Do you have a philosophy or a motto in life that you live by, or that you would share with somebody? If you had to advise them to live to 100?
no.
Would you give anybody advice on how to live? What kind of advice would you give somebody if they wanted to live to 100 years?
Well, the only advice that I would say is that to try to live like God wants you to every day that you have breath to breathe. Because after all, He's the one that has control of our life. And if we don't listen, then we answer the consequences.
Is there anything left on your list of things you would like to do?
Things that I would like to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would like to be able to stay out and visit every one of my nieces and nephews that live wherever they live. And I have them in every country, every state of the Union.
Have them come to you or you go to them?
Well, on my 100th birthday, there were 50 of my relatives here.
Wow.
From Arizona, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma.
So you had a good turnout for your party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My nephew, who is the son of my youngest brother, he and I were, in fact, we graduated from high school the same year. And we were very close, and his children had the birthday party
Okay.
with the assistance of a friend, and notified all the relatives, and he was the one that.
Very nice. What would the two of you do for fun when you were growing up together? That you and this nephew?
What did we do?
For fun?
Argue a lot of times.
Oh, that's it. Kids will do that.
No, we got along just real well, and
What kind of games would you play if you did?
we didn't do a lot of game
Games.
playing.
Okay.
We had work to do,
You had
and
chores.
yeah. Of course, he was working and I was working, but anyway, life goes on, and if you don't like some of the things that happen, why, smile about it and go on.
Well, do you have a favorite childhood memory?
Well, the thing that comes to me right now is when my second brother came home from World War I.
World War One. And how was that?
He had been shell-shocked and he was not good. And And that has always stayed with me, because a lot of times he would be very, 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 very scary.
That was
He's
about
the one that's buried out here at the.
The cemetery?
and the end of the war is about the time right after with the influenza epidemic. Did that impact your family any?
Sir?
The flu epidemic, 1917 or 1918. Did that impact you or others you knew?
No, I don't think so.
Some folks say that those times are pretty harsh with illnesses and diphtheria. We hear a lot of different.
You know, I will say, with God's help and everything, that my life has been very lucky, I guess, with not being ill and a lot of because I feel very fortunate to not have to be. Of course, I go to the doctor, but don't always enjoy. But I've been in the hospital once, and then since I've been here, I was in the hospital a few days, but all in all, I've got a lot to be thankful for, and I am.
Now, if history were written today, what would you want it to say about you?
Nothing. I don't. Not important. Even though I've had 100 years, 101 years, it's higher power that's important, it's not me.
That's fair enough.
Because after all, that's the one that's saying, hey, you're still here, you're supposed to do so and so tomorrow. But what is it going to be? Well, you'll find out in the morning.
Well, is there anything else you want to say before we shut this off?
I think I've said more than I should.
I think you've been great, and I appreciate you talking with us.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I'll probably think of several things that I could have said later on in the... But anyway, I did have... There was a communion, I'll say this, a communion between our family that was very, very good.
Your family meaning you and your husband, or you and your parents and
My brothers and sisters.
your sisters? Brothers and sisters. They all got along.
They, of course, my two brothers was at home because I was the honorary one, and the rest of them, my brother and sisters were all gone, and only way I knew them was when they'd come home to see Mom and Dad. When I was, and I had some sweetie pies.
Would they come at Christmas and Thanksgiving?
A lot of
Holidays?
times, of course, my sisters didn't live too far. They married farmers, and they didn't live too far from where we lived in Texas County.
Okay.
And so then after the folks moved to Enid, well, they came to see down here, so not as often, but in fact, one of my sister's granddaughters lived here, and she was to see me yesterday. And so, but anyway, I've told too much.
We will shut it off. Thank you. Seriously, thank you.
Yeah.